Jake quits his job. Marcus stays in his. They both think they made the smarter call. Jake thinks freedom is worth more than a salary. Marcus thinks stability is worth more than risk. They're both missing something. And when you run the actual numbers over 5 years, the gap between what freelancing feels like and what it actually pays will change the way you think about the whole conversation. Let's keep this fair. Jake and Marcus both earn $65,000 a year as graphic designers at the same agency. Same skills, same experience, same city. Jake lands a freelance client paying $80 an hour. He does the math on a cocktail napkin. 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. That's $160,000. He hands in his notice on a Friday. Marcus watches him go and quietly wonders if he made a mistake by staying. On day 1, Jake has freedom. He sets his own hours. He works from a coffee shop at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. He doesn't have a commute. He doesn't have a manager. He doesn't have a dress code. He posts a photo of his laptop next to a latte and captions it, "Office for the day." 14 people like it. Marcus is sitting in a staff meeting about Q3 deliverables. The optics alone make Jake look like he won. But optics and math are two very different things. For the first few weeks, Jake is living the dream. His client is happy. The work is interesting. The money hits his account and it feels different from a paycheck. It feels earned in a more direct, more personal way. He's billing $2,400 a week and thinking about which client he'll bring on next. He starts a spreadsheet. The numbers look incredible. Marcus gets a 4% raise in his annual review. His manager thanks him for his consistency. He drives home on the same road he always drives. Nothing about his life looks like a story worth telling. But here's what Jake's spreadsheet doesn't have yet: the column for everything else. Let's run the actual numbers through year 1. Jake billed $80 an hour, but he wasn't billing 40 hours a week. Nobody does. Because freelancing isn't just doing the work, it's finding the work, it's emailing the work, it's chasing the invoice for the work, it's redoing the work when the client changes their mind. And technically that's in the contract, but you do it anyway because you need the referral. Realistically, Jake is billing 25 to 30 hours a week, some weeks more, some weeks less. Averaged out across the year, including the 2 weeks he couldn't find a client and the week he was sick and lost 3 days of billable time with no sick pay to cover it, Jake billed approximately 1,200 hours. At $80 an hour, that's $96,000, not $160,000. But still comfortably more than his old $65,000 salary. Jake is still winning, right? Now subtract what Marcus gets for free: health insurance. Jake's old employer covered $500 a month toward his health plan. He didn't think about it because he never saw it. It was just there. Now he's paying $450 to $600 a month for a solo plan with a higher deductible. That's $5,400 to $7,200 a year gone before he buys a single coffee. Retirement contributions. At the agency, Marcus gets a 4% employer match on his 401k. On a $65,000 salary, that's $2,600 a year in free money added to his retirement account. Jake has no match. He has to fund his retirement entirely himself, and most freelancers don't. The ones who do are putting in money that Marcus's employer was putting in automatically. Self-employment tax. This is the one that catches every new freelancer off guard. When you're employed, your employer pays half of your Social Security and Medicare taxes. When you're self-employed, you pay both halves. That's an additional 7.65% on top of your regular income tax. On $96,000 in freelance income, that's roughly $7,300 in extra tax that Marcus never pays. Software, equipment, and workspace. Jake needs design tools, project management software, cloud storage, a faster laptop than the one the agency used to provide. He needs a dedicated workspace or a co-working membership. These costs run $200 to $400 a month for a working designer. That's another $2,400 to $4,800 a year. Accounting. Jake does his own taxes the first year. He underpays his quarterly estimates and owes $3,400 in April. The second year, he hires an accountant. That's $800 to $1,500 a year, and it's worth every dollar, but it's still a dollar. Now let's rebuild Jake's actual year 1 income. Gross billings, $96,000. Minus health insurance, minus $6,300. Minus self-employment tax, minus $7,300. minus software and equipment, minus $3,600, minus accounting, minus $1,000, minus unpaid invoices he eventually wrote off, minus $2,200. Jake's real take-home in year one? Approximately $75,600. That's still more than his $65,000 salary. Jake is still ahead, but the gap has shrunk from $31,000 to roughly $10,600. And that gap cost him something else entirely, something that doesn't show up in any spreadsheet. Marcus worked 40 hours a week, clocked out, and stopped thinking about work. Jake worked 40 hours, then spent another 10 to 15 hours on admin, outreach, invoicing, client calls, and the low-grade anxiety of not knowing where next month's money was coming from. Jake earned more per hour worked. He just worked far more hours than he counted. If you divide Jake's $75,600 by the actual hours he put in, including every email, every revision, every proposal he wrote for a client who went with someone else, his real hourly rate is somewhere around $38 to $42 an hour, not $80, not even close. Marcus earned $65,000 for roughly 2,000 hours of work. That's $32.50 an hour. No hidden hours, no unbillable time. The gap between them, in real hourly terms, is smaller than either of them would have guessed. This is where the hidden math of freelancing starts to show its teeth. What nobody talks about when they quit their job is the cost of inconsistency. A salary is boring. It's the same number every 2 weeks. It doesn't spike, it doesn't crash, it just arrives. Freelance income doesn't do that. It comes in waves. A great month followed by a quiet one. A big project that ends abruptly. A client who loved your work and then got their budget cut. A referral that was supposed to come through and didn't. Jake had 2 slow months in year one. Not disasters, but quiet. He made $3,200 in one of them. His rent is $1,400. His insurance is $500. His software is $300. That month cost him money, in the sense that it reset every financial buffer he'd been building. Marcus didn't have that problem. Marcus had a bad Tuesday, not a bad month. The psychological cost of income volatility is real, and it compounds. Jake started making decisions based on fear during his slow months. He took on a client he knew was difficult because he needed the money. He undercharged a new project because he was worried about losing it. He spent money on a course promising to help him land higher-paying clients because the anxiety needed somewhere to go. None of that shows up in the income column. All of it affects the outcome. Now, year 3. Because this is where the story either proves itself or falls apart. By year 3, Jake has figured most of this out. He's raised his rate to $95 an hour. He's built a small client base that comes back regularly. He's got systems for invoicing, a better accountant, a clearer sense of how to price a project. His annual billings are up to $115,000. After all real costs, he's clearing around $88,000 to $92,000. Marcus has had 2 more raises. His salary is now $72,000. He also got a small bonus of $2,800. His employer is still matching his retirement contributions. His health insurance is still covered. His total compensation package, salary plus employer retirement match plus benefits, is worth approximately $83,000 to $86,000. They're neck and neck. 3 years in, after everything, they're separated by a few $1,000s. And Jake worked harder for his. But here's what changed for Jake in year 3 that the numbers don't fully show. He's no longer capped. Marcus's income grows by whatever his employer decides to give him. 3 to 5% in a good year, 0 in a bad one. Jake's income has no ceiling. He can raise his rates. He can add a client. He can productize a service and sell it to more than one buyer at once. He can build something. That asymmetry is real. It's the most powerful argument for freelancing, and it's the one that actually holds up over time. But here's what most people who use that argument get wrong. The upside of freelancing is real, but it's not automatic. It requires you to treat freelancing like a business, not like a job you do from home. Most people who quit their jobs to freelance are not building a business. They're doing their old job for clients instead of employers. And that's fine, but it has a ceiling too. It's just a ceiling you set yourself instead of one someone else sets for you. The freelancers who genuinely break away from what Marcus earns are not trading time for money anymore. They're building systems, packages, audiences, or agencies. They're not doing more hours. They're doing different things. And most people who imagine the $160,000 napkin math when they hand in their notice are not picturing that version. They're picturing more clients, more hours, more of the same. And that path, if they're honest about the full cost, doesn't always win. By year 5, here's where they actually land. Jake, assuming continued growth and smart positioning, is clearing $95,000 to $105,000 after real costs. He has more flexibility, more autonomy, and more upside potential. He also has no employer retirement match, has spent 5 years funding his own benefits, and has roughly $30,000 to $40,000 less in his retirement account than Marcus, purely because of the missing employer contributions compounded over 5 years. Marcus is earning $78,000 to $80,000 with full benefits and a retirement account that's been quietly building with matched contributions every single year. His total wealth position, including retirement savings, is closer to Jake's than the income gap suggests. Neither of them made the wrong choice. They made different choices with different trade-offs that most people never actually map out before they decide. The trap isn't freelancing. The trap isn't staying employed. The trap is making a decision about how you earn money based on a rate or a paycheck without ever asking what that number actually buys you, what it costs you to earn it, and what happens to it before it reaches anything that matters. Jake didn't do the wrong thing. He just did it without running the numbers past month 1. He saw $80 an hour and calculated a fantasy. If he'd calculated the reality, he might have made the same choice. He might have made a different one, but he would have made it with his eyes open. Marcus didn't do the wrong thing either. He stayed because he felt stable. But stability is only valuable if you're using the predictability to build something underneath it. A salary is a tool. The question is what you're building with it. So here's the question I want to leave you with, and I genuinely want you to sit with it. If you're freelancing right now, do you actually know your real hourly rate? Not the number on your invoice. The number after every hour, every expense, every slow month, and every tax bill is accounted for. And if you're employed, do you know what your total compensation is actually worth? Not just the salary, the match, the insurance, the sick pay, the paid leave. Because if you're thinking about leaving without counting those, you're not doing the math, you're doing the fantasy.